We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day. We are News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Wednesday, January 22nd here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and you're watching News Generation. Joining us today is Park Ki-yoon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And Ki Kim.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Now both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. We're going to start with our keyword news of the day. Our keyword for this Wednesday is fine dust. If you're currently in Korea, you might have wondered if yesterday and today's hazy sky was caused by fog or fine dust. That's because South Korea has been grappling with poor air quality since the start of the week, with this year's first ultra-fine dust advisory issued for Seoul and other central regions on Monday. This advisory is issued when the average concentration of ultra-fine particulate matter exceeds 75 micrograms per cubic meter for at least 2 hours. The Korean Meteorological Administration attributes this to atmospheric stagnation, which allowed fine dust to accumulate, compounded by dust clouds drifting into the country from the west. So what were your thoughts on yesterday and today's poor air quality?
Well, as I was driving to the studio this morning, I thought, is it still night?
Right.
It was too dark. It reminded me of Beijing when I was there for the graduate school classes. The whole sky looked dusty. It was a mixture of a gray and brownish color all over, and you can't possibly see what's out there. And you can't see Seoul N Tower or the L Tower, the tallest structure in Seoul, located in Jamsil, pretty much anywhere, if you're in Seoul. But I couldn't see anything yesterday and today, and the weather was warm, but it was covered with it covered up the sun. I remember watching a public ad one day where the kid was drawing the sky, and then they used peculiar colors, like they didn't use a sky blue color, but they used gray or brown color because they were used to this polluted air, and it was really saddening to see that they couldn't see what sky blue is actually.
Right. So the country is indeed experiencing a serious air quality right now. And in response, the capital region and nearby Chungcheongdo provinces have rolled out so-called fine dust reduction measures. So Ki-yoon, can you walk us through these initiatives? What are they?
Sure. According to the Ministry of Environment, fine dust reduction measures are implemented when the ultra fine dust concentration is expected to be over 50 micrograms for 3 consecutive days. And as of now, Seoul is at 91 micrograms, and Jeju-do Island is the only region that is actually below 50 micrograms.
I see.
So during these days, ways to minimize the health risk are as below. Avoid unnecessary outdoor activities, but if you do go outside, wear a K94 mask. When you come inside home, wash your feet and hands thoroughly. Ventilate properly by replacing air purifier filters, and refrain from driving grade 5 vehicles.
Right, so refraining from going outside, and if you do go outside, wear protective masks, and always be sure to wash your hands and feet when you come back. Now, air quality here in the country is expected to improve from tomorrow, and that was our keyword news for this Wednesday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day by taking a look at the screen.
Donald Trump was officially sworn in as the 47th President of the United States on Monday, local time, marking the beginning of his second term in office. Today, we'll examine the implications of Trump 2.0 for South Korea, as well as for Koreans living in the United States.
Right, so Donald Trump has returned to the White House, bringing expectations of major shifts in domestic policies and international relations. He was sworn into the office as the 47th President of the United States on Monday local time, and Tuesday was his first full day as a President of the United States. So with Trump becoming the second president to serve two non-consecutive terms, the other being Grover Cleveland in the 19th century today, we're going to discuss today how Trump 2.0 might impact South Korea and Koreans living in the States. So we're going to start by discussing how South Korea as a nation and Koreans living in the U.S. have been reacting to this change in leadership.
First of all, overall, the general sentiment here in South Korea is not so positive, perhaps more negative than Trump's first term back in 2017. There are grave concerns that Trump returning to the Oval Office could take a big toll on the country's economy overall. In fact, a survey by the European Union's think tank, European Council on Foreign Relations, indicated that only 11% believed Trump's leadership would benefit South Korea, while 67% thought it would be detrimental. This similar sentiment was also shared by the UK, 15% to 54%. And the concerns stem largely from Trump's emphasis on America First, or MAGA, during his election campaign, including pledges to impose a 10% tariff, which has raised fears of reduced exports of Korean products. And since South Korea is a heavily export-dependent country, sectors that will be targeted the most must take quick measures to minimize the impact on its revenue moving forward.
Right. So far, the outlook for Trump 2.0 in terms of its impact on South Korea is not that bright. Could you provide anything more, Ki?
Well, not only Korea, but all over the world, every country around the world, including Europe or Asia, they're concerned about Trump 2.0. And even before sitting down in the Oval Office for the second time, he swore that he'll be kicking out all the illegal immigrants, so to speak. And as he's very much focused on America First, the Trump 2.0 administration will scrutinize every foreign immigrant and minorities, such as refugees or asylum seekers, or even those who have the American dream with different nationality, and micromanaging all the immigration process. And Korean American, of course, or overseas Koreans who would have concerns regarding their current status and how President Trump would treat them. But when I look at it, it's less concerning, to be honest, as they are not minorities. And Korea and U.S. always say they have a strong friendship and ironclad friendship and firm alliance. So I wouldn't worry too much, but it came to my big surprise that many overseas Koreans are actually concerned about the Korean political situation right now. And some Korean communities, they gather to show their political stance and voice up in Washington or Korean embassies or anywhere they can actually show up, especially since the short-lived martial law imposition. And as Korea faces the absence of the leadership right now, we too hope that the situation will settle down soon and the vacancy of the leadership can be filled up so we can properly deal with the incoming and new Trump administration.
Right. So Ki just mentioned Koreans living in the United States. We're now going to focus our discussion to the population there. Now, Trump's second term is once again expected to affect Koreans living in the United States, particularly those of our generation, because many are currently studying or working in the United States. And also, there are many who are considering making the move there. So I want to ask you, what are some key areas where you might see the most impact under the Trump 2.0 era?
I think one of the main key areas of interest for the Korean MZ generation in the US is likely to be issues surrounding employment and immigration for obviously international students. Currently, there are approximately 47,000 Korean international students in the US, making them the third largest group after China and India. And during the election campaign, Trump mentioned granting permanent residency to foreigners who graduate from US universities. While he has advocated for large-scale deportations of undocumented immigrants, this could be interpreted as an indication that he would actively encourage legal immigration for professionals and highly skilled individuals. At present, international students in the US hold non-immigrant visas that only allow them to study, making it difficult to find legal pathways to immigration and, of course, employment after graduation. However, if Trump's remarks were to be implemented, it could significantly expand employment and immigration opportunities for Korean international students for now.
Right, so we'll have to see where his policy agenda or direction will go through, but I think I get your point. It's not all bad news, right? But on the other hand, some students, Korean students living in the States or some working, they are asking what could Trump 2.0 mean to me when it comes to employment and also just living there. So are there any opposing views that you'd like to introduce, Ki?
Well, I was one of the international student in the United States, and many students studying abroad, especially in the United States, know that it costs a lot of money.
Right.
As a matter of fact, you need to prove with your bank account that you can provide the actual tuition, the college tuition for 4 years and the living expenses as well just to obtain the visa. So, and Trump, as a former entrepreneur, wouldn't miss that opportunity where the students and families would come over to the United States and spend money, and they can quite possibly be intellectual assets, like Ki-hoon was saying. However, there are concerns that universities might be just green card factories, making uncertain whether such a proposal will be implemented or whether it could gain support from the Republican parties, even if they are pursued. So during the first Trump administration, employment visa and employment-based immigration were more challenging compared to the Democratic administration. Standards became much tougher, and the process took much longer due to the growing tendency among Americans to prioritize domestic job opportunities and economic benefits for the U.S. citizens. And as such, interest in investment-based immigration has been increasing as an alternative to employment-based immigration. Yet this is all the more challenging as well because they are raising the bar, and the minimum investment amount is set to increase, making it extremely difficult to obtain a permanent residency.
Right, and in order to get this investment visa, one needs to make substantial investment in a U.S. commercial enterprise and also create a certain number of jobs. So it is definitely not easy.
It's not easy.
Right, so far we've focused on our discussion here in the studio, but now for a closer look at this topic, we're actually going to connect with a Korean millennial living in the U.S. Stay tuned.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang.News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
Welcome back. Today we're joined by Kim Young-bin, a Korean millennial currently pursuing his doctorate in the United States. Welcome, Young-bin. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So, Young-bin, we would first like to ask you, based on those around you and also your opinion, could you tell us the general sentiment among Korean students in the U.S. towards President Trump's second term in office?
Well, to give you an answer to how Korean students in the US feel about Trump's second term, I wanted to give you an example. I actually received an email last month from the International Student Office of my university, and they advised us to return to the US before January 20th if we were planning to travel home for winter break. Because of potential changes in immigration policies after the new administration takes office, and it is not just my university, friends at other universities have mentioned getting similar messages too. This made me realize how much political changes can directly impact international students like us. And with that in mind, I think there's definitely a sense of uncertainty among Korean students, especially when it comes to visa policies and how they might affect our chances of finding jobs after graduation. One thing I've noticed is that many graduate students, myself included, started to reach out to senior students or professors who experienced Trump's first term as international students to get a better understanding of what to expect. To be honest, it's a bit nerve-wracking to think about what the next few years might bring. However, I believe most of us are trying to stay informed and hopeful that positive changes could also come our way.
Youngmin, I did also read about the article where students were given emails asking them to refrain from traveling overseas, especially Korean students, because it's a Lunar New Year. Anyway, my second question is, what do you think the start of Trump's new four-year term means for you when it comes to finding a job or settling down in the country?
That's a really great question. Honestly, I think the start of Trump's new four-year term brings a big deal of uncertainty when it comes to finding a job or settling down in the U.S. Trump administration seems generally lean towards stricter immigration policies, which could mean additional hurdles for international students. However, I noticed that there are also voices that advocate for attracting skilled foreign professionals to boost the economy, especially on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics majors. But for those of us in non-STEM fields like political science, including myself, currently only have a year after graduation to find a job and establish a stable legal status, making the process feel like a race against time. However, President Trump mentioned in his campaign rallies that all foreign students with higher degrees obtained in the US should get green cards. I hope that opportunities apply to every high degree holder in the US, regardless of their field.
Thank you. Hopefully, nothing unfortunate would happen to any of you, and hopefully you can just focus on your studying and so on. For Koreans already living in the U.S. or planning to move there, what do you think there are the most critical things to prepare for this new American leadership?
Well, as a student here, I think one of the most critical aspects of preparation is aligning career and study choices with fields that are prioritized by the US government, particularly, as I mentioned before, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and the mathematics. These fields are often considered essential to national interests and typically offer better job prospects, longer visa durations, and clearer pathway to permanent residency in here. And beyond career considerations, I think it is really important to stay well informed about immigration policies, visa options, and work permit regulations. These policies can change rapidly with new leadership, and I know Trump administration has already introduced several executive orders related to immigration. So I think keeping up to date with such changes is crucial for making informed decisions and ensuring compliance with legal requirements, whether you are already in the US or planning to move here.
Couldn't agree with you more. All right, Youngbin, thank you so much for sharing your experience and your perspective today.
Thank you for having me. Have a nice day.
You too.
Thank you.
Right, so just as Youngbin just mentioned, President Trump on the first day of his second term signed a slew of executive actions related to immigration reform, such as declaring a national emergency at the border related to citizenship, climate change, and restructuring federal government operations, which were central to his campaign promises when he campaigned for the 2024 presidential election last year. So ending off, we're still in the very early days of Trump 2.0. It's only been 2 days local time. Which areas do you think South Korea should focus on and prepare for when engaging with the Trump administration, as America is indeed one of South Korea's biggest and strongest allies?
I personally think one of the key areas should be negotiating trade policies and maintaining close economic ties with the US. Considering Trump's second term, in his election campaign, he did mention the word tariff. And I think that word really resonated with a lot of Koreans, not just Koreans, but like all over the globe. So I think imposing tariffs is obviously going to take a big toll on Korean economy, especially in the automotive and electronics, which are two main key sectors in the Korean economy.
Right.
So as US is the second biggest trade partner to South Korea, I think we must continue to have close bilateral economic dialogue amid the leadership vacuum that we're experiencing right here in South Korea. I think it's not the best time to accept a new leader of United States when we don't have a proper leader in Korea right now. But I think, in Korean, there's a saying, 위기는 곧 기회다.
What does that mean?
A threat can always become an opportunity. So I think Korea should take this as a big opportunity for us to really come back to the global stage and, compete as one of the wealthiest countries in the world.
Right, and I think the economy is definitely under the spotlight of many people who are putting an eye on what Trump 2.0 will mean, because as Q mentioned, President Trump mentioned tariffs several times. He even teased that he will slap 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico, but on the first day, he didn't sign any executive orders related to tariffs. So we'll see what comes next when it comes to economy and what that means for our wallets. What do you think, He?
Well, if you actually take a look at a lot of foreign correspondents, or for example, BBC, Washington Post, New York Times, or Fox News even, what they were saying was that, Trump is an entrepreneur, right? He's a great negotiator. But then the thing is, to work with the country, they have a Senate, right? So they have to work together. It's just not top-down approach. They have to approve what Trump has said.
Right.
So it's going to take a longer process. And also we got to, just like you mentioned, protect our main industries such as automobiles and IT. Especially Korea is strong for the electric vehicles. It's been like that for the past few years. And Trump is getting rid of the benefits for the EV, which will be a huge impact for the automobile industries. And just take a look at the TikTok, for example. TikTok has been, banned for for quite a few days.
Right, it went dark.
Right,
then
and
came
now
back.
it restored. But Trump was saying that he wants 50% American ownership. They want to create a new corporate, right?
Right.
So they might do the similar things to other industries as well. And as Trump is working on making America great again, he might be even touching upon our FTA deal. And the tariff would be a big concern, of course. So the most important thing for Korea right now is getting our leadership back so we can properly deal with the Trump administration, with the proper leaders. And also, another thing we have to think about is the relationship with China, because China is also another big trading ally, so to speak, and we're in between. So trying to maintain that balance is really important for Korea, I think.
Right. All right. Hope our discussion today helps you better understand the new Trump 2.0 administration. And that's all from us today, but NewsGen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks to Park Yoon.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And Ki Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. We are News
News Generation.